The year is 1514. The Pope in Rome is sitting on his throne, receiving diplomats from the most powerful nations on earth. The doors open. Walking down the marble hall is not a Frenchman, not a Spaniard, not an Englishman. It is a black man, dressed in fine velvet, speaking fluent Latin. This is the ambassador of the Kingdom of Kongo. For a brief, shining moment in history, Europe and Africa looked at each other not as master and slave, but as brother monarchs. But beneath this diplomatic handshake, a dark betrayal was brewing, a betrayal that would empty a continent and change the world forever. Deep in the lush highlands of what is now Angola and the DRC, the city of Mbanza, Congo stood as a metropolis of Central Africa. Long before the colonial scramble, this was a highly organized state. It had governors, judges, a tax system, and a population of nearly 500,000 people in its central province. It was known as the City of Bells because of the many churches that would eventually rise there. The Kingdom of Kongo controlled the massive Congo River basin. They were masters of iron, copper, and cloth. Their raffia cloth was so fine that Europeans who touched it compared it to velvet. This was not a primitive tribe living in isolation. It was a centralized superpower waiting for its moment on the global stage. In 1483, the Portuguese explorer Diogo Cao arrived at the mouth of the Congo River. Unlike in the Americas, this wasn't an immediate conquest. The Portuguese were outnumbered and sick. They needed allies. The King of Kongo, Nzinga Nkulu, saw opportunity. He saw the Portuguese ships, their guns, and their religion as tools to modernize his own kingdom and defeat his local rivals. In 1491, the king voluntarily converted to Christianity, taking the name João I. But the true transformation happened under his son, Nzinga, who became King Afonso I. Afonso was a true believer. He studied the Bible. He learned Portuguese. He envisioned a tropical Versailles, a modern Christian African state that sat at the same table as Portugal and Spain. He didn't want to be conquered by Europe. He wanted to join Europe as a peer. King Afonso's reign, 1506 to 1543, is one of the most fascinating in African history. He built schools. He sent his children and nobles to study in Lisbon. One of his sons, Henrique, even became the first black Catholic bishop in history. But Afonso made a fatal mistake. He invited Portuguese merchants into his kingdom to trade. He thought they would trade for copper and ivory. But the Portuguese wanted only one thing: humans. The demand for labor in Brazil and Sao Tome was exploding. Portuguese merchants began kidnapping Congolese citizens, even noblemen, to sell into slavery. Afonso was horrified. He saw his vision of a Christian alliance crumbling into theft and kidnapping. So, he did something extraordinary. He picked up his pen. In a series of desperate letters to King Manuel of Portugal, Afonso poured out his grief. These letters are some of the most important documents in African history. He wrote, "Each day the traders are kidnapping our people, children of this country, sons of our nobles and vassals, even people of our own family." He pleaded, "It is our will that in these kingdoms there should not be any trade of slaves nor outlet for them." But the King of Portugal didn't care about brotherhood. He cared about profit. He replied with cold indifference. He sent more ships. He encouraged the instability. The brother-monarch relationship was a lie. Afonso realized too late that the religion he loved came packaged with an empire that wanted to consume him. The kingdom descended into chaos, fueled by European guns provided to slave raiders. The Kingdom of Kongo would eventually shatter. In 1665, at the Battle of Mbiwala, the Portuguese army defeated the Congo forces, beheading the king. But the spirit of the Congo refused to die. Decades later, a young woman named Kimpavita rose from the ashes. She claimed to be possessed by Saint Anthony. She preached that Jesus was African, that the capital must be rebuilt, and that the foreign influence must end. She was the African Joan of Arc. Like Joan, she was burned at the stake by European priests for heresy. But her movement, the Antonians, kept the identity of the Congo alive. And when Congolese people were taken as slaves to the Americas, to South Carolina, to Brazil, to Haiti, they carried their warrior spirit and their Catholicism with them. It was Congolese warriors who led the Stoner Rebellion in America. The story of the Kingdom of Kongo is a tragedy, but it is also a testament. It destroys the myth that Africa had no diplomacy or statecraft before colonialism. King Afonso I stands as a complex figure, a man who reached out a hand in friendship and had it cut off. His letters still echo today, a haunting reminder of the moment when the world chose greed over humanity.